Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Today I'm going to be doing one of my favorite type of videos to make, which is my favorites and least favorites of the year of 2025. This year, I think I've read 52 books. I've said it a million times, but this is my worst reading year in the last 4 years. But of these 52 books, I'm really excited because I had some ones that I really loved and I'm excited to tell you about, and some that I passionately disliked. Ignore this, my neck is all red because I just barely scratched it, so it's just really irritated right now, so ignore that. I did 5 for each, so I'm gonna do my 5 least favorites first, and then we can get into my most favorites after that. Starting off strong with a controversial one, Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. This is my favorite of the least favorites, I just wanna make that clear. This one really is on this side of the list because it was one of my most anticipated reads of 2025. Emily Henry just keeps getting better with each book that she puts out. Like every single one I like more than I like the last. Her last 2 books, Happy Place and Funny Story, I just adored those books, loved each one so much. I think that she's just getting better and better. So this one was a surprise flop for me. I did give it 3 stars, so this isn't one that I completely destroyed. And my review on Goodreads, I even said that I liked and disliked this book. One of the things that I love about Emily Henry is her ability to romanticize a place and just make me escape. I feel like I'm taking a vacation every time I read her books and learning about a new place, because the way she just writes about places is so gorgeous. You're like, okay, take me there. I'm taking the first flight out immediately. She just describes everything in such a beautiful way. And honestly, I can't even tell you where they were in this book. That's how much I feel like it didn't transport me there or make me want to be there. That's not to say that she didn't do that. I think I just wasn't feeling that pull that I felt with the first ones that I read by her. It also kind of had this Taylor Jenkins Reid feel. She had some fake celebrities in it, and there was kind of a bigger storyline than just the romance. It was a book about family trauma. It was just a lot of things. I just feel like she had too much. It was a swing and a miss. Too many things going on, too many side characters, and I just wasn't intrigued anymore. At a certain point, I just kind of lost the appeal. And then there were some things, without spoiling, there were some fundamental things that the characters did and decisions that were made in the book that personally upset me. So that also made it very hard. I've seen a lot of people who loved this one. It was their favorite Emily Henry. This book was not bad by any means. I'm not saying that at all, of course not. It just didn't land with me, which was really sad and really surprising because I genuinely really like Emily Henry. My 4th least favorite was Home is Where the Bodies Are by Jeneva Rose. So this author, Jeneva Rose, wrote The Perfect Marriage, which I think is her most popular book, which I DNF'd years ago. It was so rough. This book was honestly just something that I picked up at Costco because I was going on a road trip, and it has a really fun cover, and I was just like, it was summer, I wanted to read a thriller, it looked fun enough. It was exactly that. It was silly and trashy. If I remember right, it's this small town, of course, that had a cold case murder. It's these siblings that are returning home for the first time in a while, and they're kind of opening back up this case that traumatized them for so long. My gripe with it is just that the title of the book gives it away. Why would you name a thriller Home is Where the Bodies Are? It's not a good title anyway, but it completely spoils the book. I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, well, obviously that's not going to be the twist because it can't be, because that's the title of the book. But no, the title of the book was Home is Where the Bodies Are. She didn't even try. She didn't even try to lead you down a different path. Point blank period, Home is Where the Bodies Are. 3rd on my least favorites list is Kiss the Villain by Rina Kent. So Kiss the Villain is a spin-off of the Legacy of Gods series, which I already was pretty medium about. This is the other funny thing about Legacy of Gods. So Legacy of Gods is a spin-off series of a different series that I actually haven't read. And I think it's actually a spin-off of 2 series that she connected and made into this series. They're the kids of the characters of these other 2 series. It's so confusing. I don't get it myself because I haven't read her other series. I just have read Legacy of Gods. Again, I medium liked it, but I was just getting through because 'tis the season. It was summer and I wanted to read dark romance books. The last book in the Legacy of Gods series though is God of Fury, and that one really worked for me. I absolutely adored God of Fury. I actually read it twice. It was the only one that really stuck out and was pointedly different from the other books in that series, and it just was so good. In God of Fury, there's this little excerpt teaser for this book, Kiss the Villain, and in the little excerpt teaser, you have the setup that it's this one character from the series who was really a dark horse. You don't know what's going on with him, but he seems to have a lot of poise, really have himself together, but he's really secretive. It's him and his professor. And the excerpt that we get in God of Fury is of him and his professor in an alleyway, and his professor has him up against the wall. It's really hot, and I was really excited because I'm okay, professor student, that's really gonna work. And I was excited for this book to come out, and then it came out and I read the first chapter and I was immediately Oh, that's what it's gonna be. Rina Kent is known for her like mafia and like this like gang, there's like mobs and stuff. I know a lot of people like that and I know that's her thing, so I'm not gonna say like how dare she do that, but I really was just like, this really is already a professor-student romance and that's enough. Like I think that already is such a like perfect dark romance. It's like forbidden, it's already kind of sorted. I didn't feel like she needed to add the mafia stuff. And I also kind of was feeling like the mafia elements that were added in were from another book that I don't even remember what book and I don't remember which one I've read. But basically the hard thing with Rina Kent is like, unless you have read 4 of her series, you're not going to understand them because they just keep compounding and like the characters just keep showing back up. I was just really excited for this one, also very anticipated, and I just don't feel like it was good. I don't actually feel like their chemistry was that believable either. I don't feel like it was all that believable of a dynamic. There were lots of things where I was like, what the hell was that? What was this? She really peaked with God of Fury and I thought that she was moving on to something like bigger and better with God of Fury and like this new series that she's writing. But I fear that God of Fury might have been the peak. My second least favorite of the year was Mile High by Liz Tomforde. I really hate that I hated this book. So many people have recommended the Windy City series and I love me a good romance and a good interconnected romance series. That is like my bread and butter. I was really excited to get into this one, but I just found it completely and utterly obnoxious, unfortunately. I'll be transparent in saying that my main gripes with this book were the main characters' insecurities and body image issues. And I'm by no means against books that dive into those things and talk about it and are really real about it. Like as a woman, I think it's so relatable and I appreciate when an author throws that in there, but not when it's hit over the head as many times as it was in this book. Maybe it was just me, but I truly feel like it couldn't have been touched on more times. I didn't even say it because I honestly, like, it was hard for me to care about anything. But this book, the dynamic between the two of them is that he is a professional hockey player and she's a flight attendant who is part of this charter company that is flying this hockey team on all of their games for the season. So she's with him for the entire season and they're not supposed to fraternize with the players and vice versa. He's not supposed to be flirting with her, but of course, you know, the story unfolds, which should be so fun. I love hockey romance. I love that kind of thing. Like this, I should have loved this. I just was like, how many times can we talk about how insecure she is? How many times can we hit this over the head? I am so sick of hearing about this. I just remember so clearly there was this scene where the male love interest walks in on her and she's crying. And at this point in the story, there are so many things unfolding. There are so many hard parts and like contention points, so many things for her to validly be crying about. And in my head, I was like, God, please let her be crying about something relevant. But no, she's crying because her pants don't fit. She can't get her pants on because she's been eating good, because she's in a new relationship. And he spends a whole chapter basically standing behind her in the mirror with her standing there naked, and he's pointing out all the things that he loves about her while asking her all of the things that she's insecure about. I would be fine with this. I think I wouldn't mind that scene in a book if it hadn't been, again, just so many times. By the point that this happened, I was like, okay, we've touched on this enough. I get it. He gets it. She gets it. Why are we doing this again? So that might not be valid and people might not agree with me on that. I totally get it. I just really was like, this is overshadowing the whole plot for me. I can't even get into it because I can't get past these insecurities and body image issues that must be a really big problem because everyone has said something to her about it and her boyfriend has to reassure her day and night that she is okay and that he loves her and he likes her body. So it was pretty rough. I have heard people say though that of the Windy City series, the first one is the weakest. Like people like the other ones as it goes on, which I could honestly see myself liking. The second book, the way that they were teeing it up with the characters, I was like, oh, I might like that one. Maybe one day I'll return, but I think for now I just need a big break from anything Windy City. And then my least favorite book of the year, the only book this year that got a 1-star rating from me, was The Husbands by Holly Gramazio. This also was the first book that I read this year. So I really think that started me off to not have a great year of reading. I honestly feel like it was the curse and the cause of why I have not been having a great reading year. This book is magic realism where a woman, a single woman, comes home from a night out and she discovers that there is a husband at her house and she realizes that the husband was generated from her attic. And so she sends him back up the attic, and then when he comes back down, he's a different husband. So she has this magic attic that generates new husbands for her. She has the ability to create the perfect husband. You know, she can start like swiping just based on looks if she wants, or she can like get to know them, and if they have faults, send them back up the attic and get another one. Does it sound familiar at all to you? Or is it sounding like anything in real life? A parallel, a metaphor maybe? It's very obviously supposed to be like saying something about dating culture and probably dating app culture and the way that people are just so quick to dispose of each other nowadays. No one wants to like settle down and accept someone's faults because it's so easy. We have everyone at our fingertips to just keep swiping, keep finding new people. Like, the world is our oyster. Truly, with online dating now, I'm now realizing like, no, it's so true, because back in the day, you just went to your local bar and like, if you didn't like the people there, it was like, maybe you should move because that's what you're limited to. Maybe you should travel, you know? The concept alone, really good. Like, that could make for such a good thriller, such a good rom-com. It's definitely had those elements to it. Like, there were times where I was like a little bit scared. Like, it's a random guy coming out of your attic. While that can sound sick, sometimes the husbands were bad to her. Like, one time she has a husband who she actually was separated from. They weren't even together. And so she had to like navigate that dynamic. She also had this ex-boyfriend who, it was interesting because I kind of feel like she was like manifesting that in one of the husbands in one of the worlds, she would be with him. And I feel like maybe she is, or maybe she isn't. I don't even remember. But there were times where she would have like a good one and you'd be really excited, and then it would just be over, or she'd have a bad one. I just don't feel like the interesting husbands you spent enough time with before it was just like, okay, I get the gist. At like the 10th husband that we are like naming, knowing, recognizing, I can't care anymore. I just can't. It was just extremely boring, and it was so offbeat, but not offbeat. And like, I like that kind of shit. Like, this, again, this should be my bread and butter. If you just told me that concept, I'd be like, oh, give it to me right now. But trust me, this one is just not that. I am just gonna spoil the end because I feel like I need to tell you. You're like, where could this go? At some point, she tries to track down one that she really liked, and you don't know how this is gonna wrap. And then finally, she makes the choice to burn down her house and then destroy the attic in doing so. And she's left with just the random husband that it generated for her before it burned down. The husband that it generated, she doesn't seem particularly excited about, and she doesn't seem to really care at all, but she just realizes that like life is deciding to like love someone or choosing to be with someone, like making it work, because it's the same thing with anyone. And she's like, I can't keep sending these guys back up to my attic, so I'm just going to choose this one and love him. Like, that's not an ending to a book that I want to read. Like, that's a shitty ending. I'm sorry. I did not like the ending of it. I also didn't like the beginning of it or the middle of it or any of it. I really did not like this book. I despised it. It also was my friends and I's, it was a book club pick, and our book club has fizzled out so bad. I'm in 2 book clubs technically, but one of them we've really fizzled out by, and that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. I was the only one who read it, and they could not get through it, and I was like, don't even bother. I'll tell you guys all about it. Come to my house and I'll make you food and let me rant about this book to you, which honestly is kind of fun. I love subjecting people to my book opinions, so I was like, I get to be the only one with thoughts or opinions about this, and you can ask me questions. Slay. So that was all of my least favorite books for 2025. Now I get to get into my favorites, which I am so excited about. Coming in at number 5 was Heartstopper by Alice Oseman. Heartstopper is a young adult graphic novel series. I absolutely adored it. I really love graphic novels, and I just love the quirk that they add. I love how much heart they add. Obviously, like, you get to, like, I'm not picturing it in my head because there's pictures to look at, and it's just so fun and so cute. It's these 2 boys that are in high school, and it's their love story together. And I just thought it was the sweetest, most relatable, most adorable story ever. I read this on my Kindle, all of them, and I really just want to have these on my shelf one day. I would love to have the set of these because it was one of my favorite series, like such a good YA romance series. I did try watching the show and I liked it. I didn't love it like I loved the books though. Like, I actually didn't even finish the show. That's just because the books were so good. Like, I just loved the books so much. The first book was the only one that I gave 5 stars. I gave the rest of them 4 stars, but I think that's just because, you know, with like a romance book, or a series, I guess, romance series, if it follows the same couple throughout the whole series, it's a little tough because there's a point of them like falling in love, and then to make for like storyline and having an arc or anything, they just have to have problems in the other books, and that's like always hard for me. So I loved the first book. I loved their love story. And then I still I really liked the rest. They just weren't 5 stars the way that the first book was a definite 5-star for me. I loved it so much. Then my 4th favorite was Listen for the Lie. This was by far my favorite thriller that I read all year, and one of my favorite thrillers, like, honestly, ever. This is definitely in my top 5 thrillers in general, I think. This is also the only audiobook on this entire list. My friend recommended this book and she specifically recommended that I listen to it, and I am so glad that she did that because it was such an incredible audiobook. So this is about a true crime podcaster who goes to this small town where there is a cold case of a murder that happened forever ago. And the prime suspect is the victim's best friend. And this woman has moved away from her hometown. She's been away for a while now, but she's coming back to do the show. And all of her other townies are also doing this podcast show with this famous true crime podcaster. And why this is so fun as an audiobook is because they gave the podcast bits intro and outro music. And it just, somehow the audio like changed and it sounded like you were listening to a podcast, and they cast all of the people in the town that he interviews. So you really would have chapters, and then in the next chapter break, there would be this podcast that you're listening to. And it was so entertaining, like so much fun. I just thought it was so solid and so different. As I say always, as everyone says, thrillers can be so formulaic. You can feel like you're doing the same thing over and over again. They all have the same tropes. So I love when anything is fresh. I love when something is just trying the way that this one was. Like, this one really was a good effort, and I think it really paid off. I loved it. I was shocked to see on Goodreads that it had a 4.07, and that's not a bad rating, but it's also kind of just like a lukewarm rating. I don't know that people like loved this the way that I loved this. But to me, like thrillers, the bar just kind of is on the floor for me when it comes to thrillers. So when a thriller does something and it pays off, I think it's just so good. I'm not someone who is a big consumer of like true crime content, but I am someone who loves thrillers. Like, I like it in a fictional form. I don't like to learn about like real true crime cases. I felt like it had a really good take on that. I really loved the point, and it sent like chills up my spine. Like, I loved it so much. My third favorite book of the year was Wuthering Heights by Emily Brontë. So this is a classic that I've wanted to read since my Twilight days, because if you didn't know, this is Bella Swan's favorite novel ever, was Wuthering Heights. She had a weathered copy of it in her room from reading it so many times. And I remember as a kid being like, oh, an 1800s love story. When I'm older, I will read that one day. I can't wait to read Bella's favorite romance story. I also just love the Gothic novels by the Brontë sisters. I am so obsessed, because when I think of England at that time, I just think it's like so cold, so miserable. And I love that that's how their stories portray it. I love that it's not glorifying it or anything. And the best part about Wuthering Heights is that it's literally two neighbors gossiping to each other about their other weird neighbor. I love that old classics and like novels have this same format where it's like someone is telling a story to someone else. They're like, let me tell you about this guy. Because the first chapter is this man who just recently moved into the neighborhood. I believe Heathcliff is his like landlord. Heathcliff is the main character of Wuthering Heights. And he's his landlord, and he goes over to like meet him and talk to him one day. And the household that Heathcliff runs is just utterly insane. It's so chaotic, and all the people there. And he's sitting there being like, what is the relation of all of these people, and why do they all hate each other and really hate me? And then he ends up getting stuck at Wuthering Heights, and he has to spend the night there. And the night that he spends there, he finds all of these letters from a Catherine, and he's reading them. And then at his window, he is haunted by the ghost of Kathy. And then he leaves the next day, and he's like, what the hell was any of that? And so he goes to one of the neighbors' houses, and she's like, listen, I was their nurse growing up. Let me tell you all about this family. Like, it goes so deep. And then it is just the craziest story. And I just love that this toxic and just completely crazed love story is told by an outsider's perspective. This book really is the OG dark romance of things just being so crazy. It's Heathcliff and Catherine, who are just these two absolute freaks, and they demand to suffer because they're too proud to just be with each other and make life easy. It's like two people who just want to create problems. I love it. It's so relatable. And this is a hot take, but I'm actually very excited for the movie. I'm excited that it's Emerald Fennell, because when I was reading Wuthering Heights, I was like, oh, this is Saltburn. I'm surprised not many people talk about that, but Saltburn has so many similarities to Wuthering Heights. It's crazy. I really just feel like Saltburn is kind of like a modern day Wuthering Heights in a lot of ways, but I think she's gonna do a really good job with Wuthering Heights. I also am like, Wuthering Heights is completely weird. It's completely twisted. It definitely needs like a weird girl perspective on it, because that's what it is. I honestly feel like that's how the Brontes were. I don't want to speak for them. Like, maybe they hate that Emerald Fennell is directing it and that Jacob Elordi is Heathcliff. I really have loved the trailers for Wuthering Heights because they're making it seem like it's this epic love story. And also, if you are a Twilight person, you might just be like, oh, Bella's favorite romance from that time. If you've never read it, like, you are in for such a treat. It's such a weird and crazy story. I love it. Then my second favorite, which was a really close tie for my first, was Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. This one did not get the first spot because it made me cry a lot in a sad way. Suzanne Collins could write a prequel about every single one of her side characters, any character that has ever appeared in the Hunger Games, and just do the most phenomenal job with it. I really love learning about the history of Panem and the games through these prequels because it's something that I just never considered. I thought because this government, this like regime that has taken over and is so militant, is the way that it is when it's Katniss's Hunger Games. I never considered that like, oh, they didn't start off this way. Like they also had a rickety start and like learned things as they went on. They evolved. And that's kind of the crazy thing is you look at the Hunger Games and you're like, oh, this is really bad. They completely dehumanize the citizens and the wealth, like the class war, everything about it. You're like, the people in 12 are treated as subhuman compared to people in the career districts, which are like the working class, right? And then the capital. Like such a stark difference and so much inequality. What you don't realize is Katniss actually has it the best that anyone's had it since this revolution. Like in her Hunger Games, they're actually treated well. They actually have like a great setup. Surprisingly, that's how bad it was. That's crazy. So I absolutely loved The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. That was really good. And then this one just, oh my God, it was so sad. Getting to know young, optimistic, happy, friendly, and caring Haymitch will rip out your fucking heart. I remember when there was the backstory that she gave in Catching Fire of Haymitch, and then it was announced that Haymitch was getting a book, and at the time, stupid me was like, I don't know if I need a Haymitch story. Like, we already know how it ends. We already know who he went in with. We already know so much about him. I thought, how stupid am I? Of course she had a plan. Of course this was going to be the book. Of course this is what was going to come out of it. It's so incredible. So if you are someone who hasn't read the Hunger Games prequels because you're like, what could it possibly offer? Let me just tell you so much, seriously, so much. There are gaps that you didn't even know that needed to be filled that she fills in these prequels. It's so, so good. I'm just so passionate about the Hunger Games and I want to protect this series at all costs. I think it's so important. I seriously hope that my kids in the future are reading the Hunger Games in school. I honestly think that these books are that important. And also how crazy that through all of her books, her happiest, most hopeful, happiest ending book was the Hunger Games. They have progressively gotten sadder and worse and more like completely helpless feeling as she goes on. So while I loved this book, I think it's by far and away her saddest book. And I don't know if I could reread it because I know what I would be putting myself through and I know how much I cried and I know how much it meant to me. And I'm seriously just like, I don't think I can stomach it again. I'm of course seeing the movie, but like as far as rereading goes, this one, it's just like a gut punch. Every time I've read this series, when I get to Mockingjay, I'm struggling and I just cannot do it. And I feel like this one, I literally don't know if I can do it. Like it is so freaking sad and frustrating and awful. And you just are like, ugh, you don't realize how much, I talked about this before, but Katniss, it feels like doesn't really get to like win in the end. You kind of are like, she is left in this like really sad, really hard place. And yes, some things are better, but really not that much is better. Like it's kind of, she kind of still has like a shitty life by the end of Mockingjay. But then you read this one and you're like, Haymitch has suffered beyond what anyone else has suffered that we read about in the Hunger Games books. So I obviously loved it. It completely broke me. I bawled my eyes out. 5 stars, of course. And then my favorite book of 2025 was Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. The Queen has just done it again. I wasn't super quick to pick this up when it first got released, even though I read it in the same month that it came out, so what am I talking about? But I got it right when it became available, and I just kind of was putting it off. I was like, oh, I need to start that book, I need to start that book. Because when I read the summary of it, I wasn't super intrigued. So if you aren't familiar with Taylor Jenkins Reid, most of her books are about these fictional celebrities, and she kind of interconnects them. And they're these really fun stories that are from like the 70s, the 80s, like fun time and fun stories and like somewhere that you want to be. And this one is about 2 female astronauts in the 80s. They work for NASA. So that alone, I wasn't super hooked because I was just like, astronauts this time? Like, is that even going to be fun? The celebrities, of course, are always fun, but how can astronauts be fun? I wish I could give you more description as far as the plot goes, but I really don't feel like I can, and I don't want to because I think everybody needs to read this book. It was so amazing. I cried so many times, but this time in like a very happy way, in a very like emotional way. This was me FaceTiming my husband while he was at work to tell him that the book I was reading made me cry. At a certain point in the book, I had to just commit to sitting down and finishing it because I was like, I am so sick. I was getting a headache from stopping crying and then restarting crying so many times because I just kept picking it back up and then being like, and bawling my eyes out. This is one of those like rare, amazing books that is just about life and love and family and chosen family and God and space and stars and all of the things. I really do love space books and space movies for that reason, because it always is like creation and like humans and all of these things. I just absolutely love books like this. It's such a treat when you stumble upon them. I've had a few others like this where it's something where I didn't think I would connect with it at all. I'm like, how in the world will I ever find this relatable? There's not gonna be a chance that I like this. And then I end up completely obsessing and loving it and feeling so, it feels so deeply personal, even though it has nothing to do with me. Like, I could not be more far removed from the subject matter, but yet I relate in such a deep level, which honestly, I feel like I've done with all of Taylor Jenkins Reid's books. That's the funny thing. It's like, oh, this is a band, a Fleetwood Mac-esque band from the 70s. You won't understand them. Yes, you will. And then this one was no different. It turns out I am a lesbian astronaut for NASA in the 80s. So those were my 10 favorites and least favorites of 2025. I love doing these videos. I love getting to rant, positive and negative. It's my favorite thing. Some years I've read like 100+ books, and those ones are always really fun for me. I would have loved to have a list of like 10 books for each one, but I just did not read that many books this year. And I've been on such a rereading kick. So all of these books were ones that I read for the first time this year. I should have also said that. Obviously, if I reread a book, it's like one of my favorite books. If I would have done that, the list probably could have been like 20 books long for my favorites, but I didn't need to do all of that. Thank you guys so much. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited. I love doing this. I'm having the time of my life making these videos. So thank you for being here, and I'll see you guys later.